Today, I'm speedrunning Hollow Knight and Silksong at the same time with the help of a damage swap mod. Anytime I take damage, I immediately swap games. I'll be honest, deciding to do this was really stupid, especially since this is my first time speedrunning Silksong ever. I was way in over my head, but by some miracle I was able to finish with a half decent time. Here's how that went. The run immediately starts off with this jump down dash movement we'll use for the early game. Any of you astute Silksong enthusiasts may be wondering why I didn't have to go through the whole waking up sequence, and that's because this mod is originally a death swap, and I have to toggle damage swap in-game, then leave and rejoin for it to start working. Moss Grotto has a few notable events, first of which, nearly fainting. Turns out falling off a cliff isn't the best for your health. Also, you'll notice we dashed into the stagger animation, that just reduces the distance we have to walk. After regaining our bearings, I'll show off my parkour skills. And almost faint. Again. Literally 15 seconds later. For Moss Mother, what we want to do is lure her into this corner and then just go ham. Every time we jump, we want to get 2 hits on her, which will cause a very quick stagger. A few hits later, beat in around 20 seconds. Not too shabby. Once we climb out, we nearly faint for a third time. Except this time, we actually do. I guess that's the run, folks. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Yeah, I wish. No, the story continues. So we rush through Bone Bottom and the early stages of the Marrow up into this room. Now here, we'll do a neat little skip. We lure this enemy up, and once he attacks, we'll pogo off of him to grab this ledge we normally can't reach. It's pretty cool.
Pushanka, edges sharpen.
Gotta go. What? Gotta skip this dialogue?
Calm, child. Such foolhardiness has led many a warrior to an early grave. Perhaps some of my wares may aid you.
Speedrun! 12 seconds later.
Perhaps I should have listened to Chakra. Whatever, time for Hollow Knight. Gotta switch manually for this first one, but the rest will be automatic. Intro went smoothly, for the most part. Then we leave by breaking this huge door. In Dirtmouth, I ignored the crap out of Elderbug, and hello, Hallow Nest. One important note, I'm speedrunning both Silksong and Hollow Knight on the latest patches as of December 23rd, 2025, so some skips and strats I can't use because they just don't work no more. This mainly applies for Hollow Knight because, you know, it's been out for like 9 years. How has it already been 9 years? Time flies, man. Anyways, in this mini arena, we slap this bug, I missed this shot horribly, then kill this last guy right as I got hit. Back in Silksong, we bait this fly up, then jump off of him to reach our first upgrade. Silk Spear! It breaks webs and deals massive damage, both of which are needed for the next boss fight, the Bell Beast. She's not a hard boss by any means, but it's really easy to die to her, which sounds contradictory, so let me explain. Basically, every attack hits like a truck. One hit and half your health is gone. So far, I'm doing a pretty good job at keeping her at bay. What we don't want to see is that emerging attack since there's not a lot of time to deal damage to her. We'll keep slashing, throwing our silk spears when we can. Ideally, you don't want to miss them. Oh, and that's the boss. Nice. With that, we get another upgrade. And to claim it, we have to touch this floating ball. It transports us to the dream realm where the ancestors of my past urge me to fulfill my destiny. Or at least that's what I think is going on. Also, I don't know why there's so much platforming in this dream. I frankly hate platforming. Also, turns out that floating ball was a silk heart which allows us to passively generate 1 bar of silk. Anyways, once we leave the dream, I'll also exit the game. Hornet takes forever to wake up normally, so it's just faster to leave and re-enter the game entirely. Not every speedrun strat is cool, I suppose. Now, the path I'm taking in Act 1 of Silksong has these structures with levers just like these that we need to hit. They ring giant bells that you don't see because I'm skipping the animation, and we need to ring 5 of them scattered all around the map in order to unlock Act 2. In this new area, the Marrow, I'm literally just walking to the right. Ha! What an idiot! You'll never catch me doing something so stupid. Okay, continue to the right. Early game Hollow Knight is not that hard. There's easy enemies and easy platforming. Except I forget how bad I am at games sometimes. Once again, continue to the right and into Deep Docks, the obligatory lava level in every game. Here, I'll perform another skip. On these platforms, we'll parkour up and aggro this enemy. He'll follow us up, and once we reach the top platform, we'll do a down slash, he'll circle around, and we can parry off of him to reach this ledge. Right now, I'm actually taking a detour towards my sprint upgrade, a very handy skill to have for sure, especially for a speedrun, for obvious reasons. After a bunch of parkour, we make it to the first Silksong arena battle. This is where the Silk Spear shines. We open up with 2 back-to-back Silk Spears to dispatch the first enemy, farm Silk in the second wave, then get a 2-for-1 special in the third, and in the final wave we hit this guy thrice, do a turnaround Silk Spear, and finish the last ant with a slash Silk Spear combo. Now, you're probably wondering what a turnaround Silk Spear is, and it's basically a technique that allows us to throw Silk Spears faster. Normally, if you slash then Silk Spear, there's a delay between attacks, but you can bypass it by turning around. I don't know why it works, but I won't question it because it speeds things up. Speaking of speed, Swift Step, my dash and sprint ability. But instead of simply sprinting, I'll be using a specific sprint tech to maximize my speed. What I'll do for this goofy little run is jump, down slash, and sprint in quick succession over and over again. Again, I don't know the mechanics, it's just fast. I'll sprint my way back to this room, but this time I'll take the downwards path towards the next boss, Lace. For Lace, what we want to do is count 10 hits on her because the 11th always staggers. Using this fact, I'll lure her to this edge, then smack her into the lava for some massive damage. To give some context, a normal slash does 5 damage, Silk Spear 15, and yeeting Lace into the lava, a massive 40. Other than that, I just want to fight her normally until she dies. With her dealt with, we can continue and we'll find another structure with a bell. That's 2 of 5. And we can also enter the next area, the Far Fields, where we're just going to hit cruise control. Once we make this drop, we're going to get some lava parkour and see a big robot, the 4th course, which we'll have to fight later. But for now, we'll get another upgrade. Entering this floating fort, we'll talk to the seamstress, who promises a cloak upgrade in exchange for some mob drops. So we'll hit this bench, then set out. To complete the quest, we gotta hit these floaters and collect the spikes they shoot out. We want to prioritize hitting the ones out of the air, because the ones on the ground we can always get later. Once we collect enough, I'll leave and rejoin to warp back to the bench and collect the Drifter's Cloak. With this unlocked, we can float up in the air and ride up wind currents. We'll use this ability for another skip. Remember the big robot that we need to fight? Yeah, I lied, we're just skipping him. There's 2 ways to do this skip, the heal and healless versions. The healless version is much harder since it requires more precision, but we always attempt that one first. The heal version is used as a backup. Now, this skip is really hard since you literally can't see what's going on. It's reliant on pure instinct. So what we want to do is jump at the edge of this platform, then at the apex of the jump, cloak, dash cloak, and hopefully grab the ledge. Unfortunately, I didn't get it, but that's why I stocked up on silk. Now the heal version is literally the same thing, but we heal stall at the apex of the jump instead, just like this. If it wasn't for the backup, this would probably be the hardest skip of the run. Also, the reason why the heal version is the backup is because it takes longer to execute. Basically, when the 4th chorus wakes up, he roars, and that roar will stagger us out of the air and into the lava. Now that that's out of the way, to leave the Far Fields, we'll hit a bunch of these wind currents, run through this room, hi Sherma, exit up here so we can open this gate, then we'll hit some well-timed pogos to reach another lever, more currents, and we'll exit through the top. Arriving in Greymoor, this place has probably the hardest skip of the game. What we want to do is sprint across here and cloak to aggro this bird. Then once he attacks, we'll do a double pogo and grab this ledge. I do miss, but thankfully I barely managed to save it with an extra pogo. That was stressful. The reason why the skip is so hard is because the first bird doesn't always attack at the same interval, so you have to react to it. Also, the bird gradually floats down if he doesn't attack immediately, which is bad since if he gets too low you can't reach the second bird, so you gotta lure him back up with jumps and at the same time be ready to react. Yeah, there's a bunch of moving parts which makes it a headache. Thankfully though, we got it first try, and we get the 3rd bell too. So now we can leave. Run and dodge these enemies, we enter another arena, do some stupid crap in Hollow Knight, terrible performance I know. Then we parkour up this tower. Now, I'm gonna be smart here and tank a hit so I don't sabotage myself in Hollow Knight. Thankfully, I escaped by the skin of my teeth, and now we can actually make some progress here. As for Hollow Knight, I'm not gonna break down every detail I do, since A, I already made a video on this, and B, if I did, this video will be way too long. So I'll just go over the main points and anything interesting along the way. Starting off, I fought the False Knight, but much like the 4th course, we can skip the fight by breaking down this gate. Moving onwards, we get to the Ancestral Mound where we get our first upgrade, the Vengeful Spirit, which is basically our fireball. But we don't get it for free as we're forced to kill this shield bug before we can continue. Once we're out, we'll make our way to Green Path by sniping another shield guy and parkouring over acid. Hey, a familiar face, and I missed the fireball skip. Plan B, squid skip. Now, before we make it to our destination, we'll kill a Moss Knight and a King Vengefy for their money, and now, time to fight Hornet. There's not much to say about this fight. You don't want to get hit, you should probably use the fireball, and win, I guess. Yeah. Second ability, Mothwing Cloak, i.e. our dash. Leave and re-enter to warp back at the bench, and we'll make our way down towards the fungal wastes for another upgrade. Once again, we're avoiding the acid and any enemies in our way. And here, we'll actually take the right path since we can't do the bomb pogo skip in this patch. In this room, I get around the mantises with varying degrees of success. Switching gears, I'm now making my way towards another boss. And at this point, I may as well be taking on a pantheon with the amount of bosses I'm fighting in Silksong. I digress. Moorwing. For this fight, we're going to use the same fighting style as we did with Moss Mother, except we'll sprinkle in Silk Spears wherever we can. I'm going to relish pounding this guy into the ground, because during my first playthrough, this jerk took me an hour and 15 minutes to beat. After the first stagger, he's going to power up, but that won't stop us. His normal attacks will get harder, or he'll just get new attacks entirely. Actually, his ground saw attack is the only pattern we don't want to see, because it's really hard to hit him and dodge at the same time. And of course, as I say that, I get 3 in a row. Great. Actually, practicing Moorwing at the start... Oh, nice, he's dead. As I was saying, at the start, I was pretty intimidated by him due to my horrible experiences, but after a few practice runs, it became pretty fun. Probably in part to get back at him. Skip this cutscene, and now we're in Bellheart, but all the residents are tied up, so it's our job to save them, but only because it helps us progress. To do that, we'll have to make our way up through Shellwood, which is a bunch of platforming. Then, an arena. First wave starts, and we'll slash this guy 3 times, and Silk Spear to take the other flower out. Then we'll move to the side of the arena, so the sticks spawn on one side, so we can efficiently take them out with a Silk Spear and a few slashes. For this final wave, we want to do what we did before, but this time, we want to save the last stick, so we can pogo off of him and get this Silk Spear. Not only does it make me look cool, but that flower is a pain to deal with, so I'm glad I could get that. I'll ride this elevator down, then open this door because we're going to backtrack through here later. More parkour, and these next skips, in my opinion, are probably the coolest in the game. For this first skip, I'm going to taunt here, then start swinging to pull this enemy down. Once he's far enough down, I'll up slash here so I can pull him to the right. Then I'll do a couple more slashes here, jump to this ledge so he doesn't attack me. Once he floats up, we can pogo off of him and continue on. Man, speedrunners are something else, because how do you even think of that? I gotta thank them, because by doing that skip, we can bypass a whole freaking boss, and a tough one at that, which is welcome by me, man. This next skip requires full silk, because we're gonna sprint through here into the next room, jump, then deliberately heel stall to get knocked into this ledge. Man, these Silksong speedrunners were cooking, unlike me. Although, in the next room, we do get another upgrade, Cling Grip, so we get our wall jump. With that, we have everything we need for the next boss. She's located inside this bell labyrinth, so we'll break these walls, wait for this guy to pass, and take the second left out. Now we just drop in. Once we're in, we're gonna skip her dialogue by taunting, and the Widow fight starts. We got some new tactics for Widow. Our main attack is gonna be the sprint hit, as it allows us to get 3, sometimes 4 hits in quick succession. We're going to use that along with Silk Spears to whittle her down. Now her main attack is going to be bells that come from every which way, but sometimes she's gonna come sprinting at us, to which we just gotta slash over her. I'll be honest, her first phase is not that bad. Her attacks come in one at a time, which makes dodging pretty simple. Her second phase, however, is where things get dicey, but for now we're doing pretty well. I find that for this challenge, playing safe generally works much better, especially because swapping can put you in a really tight spot if you're not careful, which is probably why I get to phase 2 unscathed. Now the attacks come in rapid, and I mean there's a lot of near misses. Right now I'm generally keeping my distance, and I'll only attack when I get a clear opening, but even so, I still get hit. At least I can take some time to chill out in Hollow Knight. I'll hit this lever, then make my way all the way up so we can get the Mantis Claw. Second wall jump of the run. Exit out to get back to the crossroads, and open up this stag station for later. But now I have a bit of a conundrum. I need 220 geo for an upcoming purchase, so I'm gonna have to kill some more bugs. Gruzmother will give a decent amount of money, slaying her is a simple affair, but even then I'm still 10 short. But by some miracle, fireballing these enemies gives us exactly what we need. Talk about cutting it close. Snaps lie out of his delusions and he'll return to the surface as a shopkeeper for later. Then we'll make our purchase at Salubra's charm shop. We can equip the Shaman Stone at the bench, which makes spells hit much harder. And now, we have to die. But there's no enemies, since I killed them all, I'll have to respawn them. We have to tank 5 hits in this corner, which will take a while. But in the meantime, back to the fight! Man, she really didn't have that much health, huh? And somehow by killing Widow, we learn how to play an instrument. Sure, I guess we're stealing her memories or something? I don't know. But one thing is consistent, and that's parkour dreams. The Needlin can open special doors, which leads to more parkour, but once we finish that, we'll pick up this orb and flashbang! Plus some more lore stuff. Once we wake up, the bell is now free from the webs, so we'll hit this lever and leave to skip the cutscene. We'll then visit the town, but this time everyone is free, so we'll go and upgrade our needle, which is our sword, if you didn't know. We'll open the menu so we can enter the shop faster, and inside Pin Master Pliny, we'll sharpen our pin for free since we did save everyone. Now it's just a matter of leaving. We'll sprint all the way to the left, leaving Bellheart. Once again in Shellwood, I'll use this door we opened before and keep to the left. In here, we'll farm some silk because I'll need it for another skip soon, but for now, I'll make my way up through this room, avoiding all these enemies. Then, once we are out, we'll run to the right for the last bell. Now that's 5 of 5. With that, we can make it to the last area of Act 1, the Blasted Steps. We just gotta climb the entire area. But we can reduce the amount of platforming by doing some well-timed skips. Like here, where we want to dash jump off this ledge, cloak, dash then heel stall so we can just barely reach this ledge. In this next room, I'm going to farm more silk because we're basically going to do the same thing. Now at full silk, jump off this ledge and we can actually wall jump off of a tiny platform in this rock, but I missed, so more farming. You know, the pros can actually do it without the heel stall, but for me, I'm more consistent with this strat. Now this is probably going to be some of the most shameful gameplay you see. I missed this pogo. Fine, it's a miscalculation on my part. I get a second chance though, so I float into this attack. What was that? You know, it'd be a real shame if I died here because this has been a really good run so far. I'll very cautiously get the silk and attempt it again. And this is really nice because we can actually heal and skip at the same time, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I want to be careful because the enemies here are tough, and I'm making my way towards the last judge, the final boss of the act. And of course, saying that, I needlessly take damage here. But we finally die in Hollow Knight, the one and only time that we actually want to die. A few more parkour jumps, and we're here with 3 HP. Not ideal, but I'll figure it out. At the gate, we'll start playing our needle in, and the 5 bells that we activated will start to ring out, which signals the start of the boss fight. In my first playthrough, Last Judge put me in my place, so I sunk a lot of time practicing. In this fight, we want to play slow, not too aggressive, because her attacks are really punishing. We especially want to watch out for this swinging attack, since it comes in fast, and I nearly got hit there. But we can use our Silk Spear to damage her while she does that, and we'll get a stagger, which will start her second phase. She'll jump to the middle, and now her bell catches on fire, which makes everything harder, because now there's fire everywhere. Her bell explodes, the floor's on fire, there's fire pillars, fire circles, everything's on fire. But the Silk Spear does come in handy for dealing damage at range, keeping us relatively safe. Really, the main thing is not overcommitting, because that's when she's gonna catch you with your pants down. This fight is mainly reactive. Now, with this stagger, she'll yell out, then go crazy with the fire circles. But of course, we dodge and weave through every attack she throws at us, and we'll use a thumbs up technique. If you get that reference, you're a real one. Anyways, she should be really low now. Our win is basically inevitable at this point. A few more slashes, and Silk Spear, and she's done! Let's go! Down in a minute 30, and no hit to boot. That's probably the best attempt I've ever had. I'll do some celebratory flips while she explodes in the other corner, and yeah, the gate opens and we enter Act 2. Everything we did before was just to get into the Citadel. Now that we're here, we still have a bunch more to do. Entering inside, I'll use these seesaws to platform up and reach up here, which has a breakable wall. This way we can directly enter the coral chambers instead of having to go the long way around. I'll hit this lever on the way so we can grab a safety bench down here. Honestly, this is a time loss, but it makes me feel a little safer, and that usually makes me perform better. We'll head back up, and I dashed off. Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Never mind, I take it all back. I am terrible. Alright, what I'm supposed to be doing is heading towards the Cog Core, because that's where we're going to get the objective to find 3 melodies, which will allow us to face the final boss. On our way there, Laze pops down and says, of course, nothing of substance, just blah blah blah, taunt taunt taunt. When she leaves, we'll pogo this guy to make our way up. Honestly, in my opinion, Coral Chambers has to be one of my favorite areas in all of Silksong. Like, the whole aesthetic of a grand castle lost to time is so cool in my mind. Not to mention, this place's theme is absolutely beautiful. Over here, I'll try to pogo these spikes, but, that. But we can do the shade skip now! Never mind. I gotta die again. Now we're almost at the Cog Core, just a few more rooms, and this is what I was trying to do on those other spikes. In this next room, there's going to be a bunch of sentries in our way, but we can do a really cool move to get past them. By doing a down slash, then immediately dashing, we can phase right through them. I feel like we shouldn't be able to do that, but it's handy nonetheless. Now, boss number, like, what, 55 at this point? They just don't stop coming. Cogwork Dancers. This boss is quite unique because each dancer has their own set of health. Because of this, we want to focus on just one dancer at any time because getting any of them to 0 progresses the fight onwards. Their first phase is slow and simple, which of course means I'll fold under no pressure. Also, I made a small mistake here. You see, when the dancers join up, they eventually split off into the positions they start at. The left one on the left, right on right. But I forgot about that and started attacking the wrong guy. Thankfully, after a bit, I realized that it was taking far too long for this phase, and I switched targets. Their second phase is much the same, just faster. The third phase, however, is where things get a little more tricky since they start attacking off sync, which causes me to nearly die. The good thing is, I'm still tanking in Hollow Knight, so I can actually focus on this fight. Another hit, and I'm again one tap. So I frantically gather more silk for another heal, but in the process, I lose track of who to attack again. At this point, I'm kinda stressing out. Cogwork Dancers are supposed to be one of the easier bosses of the run, and here I am messing everything up. And it starts leaking into Hollow Knight too, because it takes me 3 tries to get the shade skip. And I'll tank here to get back to the fight. Eventually though, I do pull out of danger by finishing the phase, and I can breathe again. The last phase goes at a snail's pace, so it's pretty simple. But damn, that was a terrible showing. I almost don't want to show you guys, but it's my run, so I'll own it. Weaver, find the 3 melodies, the architect, the vault keepers,
the conductors.
Only then will we rise to the kingdom divine heart. Entering the Cogwork Core, we'll hit this wheel and grab the safety bench. Then I descend down into a gear. Back in Hollow Knight, we make it into the resting grounds to these statues, which transports us to the Dream Realm. Some parkouring later, and we get the Dream Nail, which means we can finally start breaking the Dreamer Seals. We'll backtrack down and around to this elevator and into the City of Tears. On our way to the Dreamers, we'll grab some items like this Wanderer's Journal, Halanos Seal, and enter this room to fight the Golden Husk for more money. Then I'll hit this lever and make my way up to do this vase skip towards Lurien. All the while this is happening, I was busy dying in Silksong. But this safety bench really saved me, otherwise I'd probably respawn in Bellheart and have to abandon this run. Another thing we have to do in this patch is kill the sentry before progressing, which, once he's dead we can hit this lever, opening this door, and we're almost to Lurien. The only thing standing in our way is the Watcher Knights. So we'll break the ceiling and cut this rope to get rid of one of the enemies, then Dream Nail so we can heal. Honestly, the fight went pretty well. I only got hit 3 times the entire fight. Meanwhile, in Silksong, I refuse to die again! Man, that was a rush. That whole sequence at 1 HP, I'm invincible! We'll grab another seal and this crate of money before eliminating Lurien. Before exiting the city, we'll make our way down to talk to Lem. He'll then appear in his shop, where we'll sell our stock for more money before heading back towards the stag station. We'll pay the toll, then make our way up to the surface. Here in Dirtmouth, we can now visit Sly and purchase the Lumafly Lantern to get into the Crystal Peaks. Hit this bench, and back to the crossroads. Except everything is now infected, which makes it a pain to get into the peaks due to these flying freaks. By pure luck, I saved myself from diving headfirst into those gears. Then we'll find ourselves in another arena. We can get a double kill here, we'll slap him, switch over, I'm getting bullied in Hollow Knight, another hit, and hit, barely get a heal, perform the clutch parry of a lifetime, leading into some aerial combat, plus a double collateral. And here's where disaster strikes. You may be thinking, oh no, he died! No. My game did. Both of them. So that's it, huh? All that work learning, practicing, and executing the run, just to fail due to some random error. So I did what anyone would do. I booted both games up again because this ain't no official speedrun. This is a YouTube challenge. Nothing will stop me, not even if the universe stands in my way, because I will forge my own destiny! So I ran back to the arena, started up the timer again, and slaughtered my enemies. While all that was happening, I made my way through the Crystal Peaks, got the Crystal Heart, and now I'm in this room. In Silksong, we reach the Whispering Vaults and make our way down towards the next boss fight. Trobio! Ow. Crystal Dash here. Try the Acid Skip. Ow. Now, I'm pretty low in Silksong, so I'll tank here so I can focus on the fight. For Trobio, we don't actually have a strategy, really. I'm just fighting him normally. Really, the only tips I have, I guess, is that you can hit these balls so they don't hit you. They usually come out for the middle. Silk Spears are pretty good, and turn around Silk Spears whenever you can. They're pretty cool. After we win, he actually drops the tool, but I don't pick it up since A, we'll need a bench to equip it, B, we have to read a whole paragraph after getting it, and C, quite frankly, it's not really useful. Now we find ourselves in the Underworks, where we will get the final upgrade of the run. To get it, we have to make this drop down, making sure not to dive headfirst into the lava. Then there's a bunch of lava parkour, leading all the way up here, more parkour, and then we can claim the claw line. It can be used to grapple off enemies and grab rings. But instead of doing that, I'll take a few times to properly position myself off this wall, to claw line all the way up to this platform. Back again, we'll make our way to the teacher's archives. I'll grab this bench for health and make my way to Umu. I'll cut to the chase. Umu wiped the floor with me. In the time it took me to defeat him, back in Silksong I did a whole arena battle, made my way out of the Underworks through these spike caves and giant steam vents, I acquired the Sacred Cylinder, arrived back in the Whispering Vaults, and got this guy to finally play the cylinder to learn the first melody. That was rough, but at least we got the second seal. Now we can make our way out of the vaults and back into the Cog Core for the next melody. This melody is guarded by a gauntlet of parkour, but it went really well. I didn't get hit once during the entire sequence, which is surprising to me since I usually suck at this type of stuff. Using the claw line in this sequence was really satisfying to me, especially this part. All my practice seems to finally be paying off. Up here we have to solve this puzzle by hitting these levers, but I already memorized the entire pattern. After completion we leave, come back up, and retrieve the second melody. Now the last melody is located in the high halls, and to scale the place we have to make use of the claw line. Basically we're making one big loop around the place towards the last melody, which is probably the hardest to get since it's guarded by a long and arduous gauntlet. As we're circling down towards the fight we have to dodge a baffling amount of spikes, and grabbing these rings will open up a path for us. I'm taking this slow because I know rushing will only result in me taking more time, just like this. After dodging all those spikes, we'll drop down, grab this bench, then head towards the fight. you know, things were going well. During the fight, I only got hit 3 times before the last wave. All the while in Hollow Knight, I got through most of Deep Nest. But sometimes the damage swap can be wholly unforgiving. While fighting these guys in the last wave, we want to be aggressive. Playing passively usually leads to being cornered and taken out, but just one mistake is all it takes to get brutally comboed. So now I have to do the whole gauntlet again. While I go through that second run, back in Hollow Knight we get through the beasts then, break the last seal, stag back to Dirtmouth, and finally enter the Temple of the Black Egg where we can start the Hollow Knight fight. All was well until he started spitting goo. I can't for the life of me consistently dodge that attack. Eventually I do die, but at least in Silksong we finally get past that stupid wave for the last melody. Back at the statues, we play the threefold melody and enter the elevator towards the final boss. But it seems Lace wants a rematch. This is a pretty bad position. Throughout the run, I deliberately try to avoid being in 2 boss fights at the same time because it easily leads to getting comboed like before, and this time was no exception, dying to Lace and the Hollow Knight later on. But I'm so close to the end, so we'll persist. For Lace, we can make use of the claw line for a really cool attack. What I like to do is after she does her spinning attack, I claw line, down dash, slash, then retreat. It's really satisfying to get off, especially when she staggers, as we can get 2 off in a row. We just gotta be ready to quickly dodge, because sometimes she'll parry then do a flurry of attacks, either on the floor or in the air, that does 2 damage if it connects. After the first stagger, Lace's second phase adds attacks like these area attacks and more dashes. But other than that, Silk Spear when we can, continue the claw lines, and eventually she will go down. For our victory, we get another Silk Heart, which of course means more Dream Parkour. And once we wake up, we can finally confront the final boss. Entering the cradle, there's some platforming that looks eerily familiar to the dream sequences, and a giant silk heart beating in the background, offering a challenge, and the silk heart explodes open and reveals Grand Mother Silk for the final challenge to Silksong. This fight is really fun because of the way we attack and travel around the arena. What I personally like to do is use the claw line to close the distance, get a few slashes in, and rinse and repeat. The claw line is also really handy when it comes to dodging. It takes me about a minute to get phase 1 over with. Now, it's not the fastest attack strategy in the world, but I like it because it allows me to whip around the map really quickly and dodge attacks, which is priority for this challenge. The second phase comes with a lot of new attacks, like these spikes and rock falls. There's a lot of near misses and edging of death, but we land the final blow with the claw line, and Silksong is officially complete! We bind to Grandmother Silk's power and take over as the ruler of Farloom. Also, I had to force close the game to switch back to Hollow Knight. But at least now we don't have to deal with switching after every hit. I can finally take the Hollow Knight down. Not gonna lie, the swapping was still ingrained in me, and you can see that here. After getting hit, I positioned myself away to prepare for the swap before realizing, hey, I actually don't need to do that anymore. Genuinely, this boss fight might be the hardest of this challenge because we do so little damage. It takes forever to kill this guy, man. Even now that this fight is the final hurdle and we don't have to deal with the swapping anymore, that doesn't stop me from cutting things way too close, way too many times. Like, bro, what are these attacks? Thankfully, after enough hacking and slashing, his attacks slow and his vigor fades. Time to finish this! With one last fireball, we knock him down, then absorb all the infection. The screen goes black, and we finish at a time of 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 2 seconds. I won't lie, with the amount of times I died, this definitely isn't the best time out there. But even so, since I'm the first person to do this, to my knowledge, it's a world record! With that achievement, I'm going to hang my speedrunning coat here because this took so long, and I didn't even get the best time possible. But since you're here, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!